locked in to the hottest station on the planet.
Resistance is futile. The revolution has begun.
You're listening to Rebelpreneur Radio, helping you break the rules and build the business you need for the life you want. And now, broadcasting his pirate signal
from somewhere beyond the status quo,
here's your host, best-selling author, marketing and media strategist, Ralph Brogden.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Rebelpreneur Radio, the show that helps you build the business you need so you can live the life you want. I'm Ralph Brogden. You know, a big part of the show is about your mindset. Your attitude in life and in business affects your altitude. And my guest today is going to tell us what it takes to develop a millionaire mindset. His name is Matt Aitchison. He is a 7-figure real estate investor. He's a business mentor, speaker, and an avid adventurer. He is the host of the Millionaire Mindcast, a top-ranked motivational podcast that helps aspiring millionaires and entrepreneurs from around the globe grow their income, impact, and influence. So, Matt Aitchison, welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here with you.
And you're joining us all the way from California, I believe.
I am from, at least today, I'm going to call it sunny California. We've been getting some rain, which we actually need, but I am coming to you from Northern California.
That's awesome. So it's good to connect with you. Tell us a little bit more before we get started into the mindset stuff, which is really interesting to me. But first, tell us a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and who you help.
Absolutely. So as you know, Matt Aitchison, most of my friends call me Matty A, and I am 29 years old. I got a beautiful wife, 2 beautiful little girls. Ella's 3.5 and Evelyn's 5.5 months. So I am kept on my toes mentally and physically right now with just my girls at home. And they're really obviously my world. They're, you know, as many people say, they're why you do what you do, why you show up. And the other part of, you know, why I do what I do or who I serve is I really help entrepreneurs create and generate wealth. And that really obviously starts in the mind. And so to kind of recap and go back for you real quick, I didn't have that mindset. I was, you know, I would say I was financially illiterate, and the way that, you know, I looked at wealth creation was it was something that I always aspired to have, but had no idea what bridge was needed in order to actually get there, how to fill those gaps. And I got expelled from high school my senior year. I got arrested in college. I was making some poor decisions in my life with my environment and who I was surrounding myself with. And I kind of had that fork in the road moment. I think a lot of people can relate to, you know, if I would have done this, life would have looked a whole lot different for me. And that was my moment when I was about 19 years old. And I was so scared of what my future reality was that I basically did a 180 and ran the complete opposite direction of that, which led me to editing my peer group and getting heavy in personal development and finding a mentor who ended up working for, who owned a small business. And that was kind of my first exposure to entrepreneurship. And I realized after graduating from college that I didn't want to work for that individual anymore. And yet the tools and the mindset and kind of the skill set that I was able to develop gave me a lot of runway to having some courage to take that leap of faith for myself. And so I moved back to Sacramento. I was going to UC Santa Barbara. And I moved back to Sacramento. I ended up moving back in with my dad, and I was scrolling through, you know, Craigslist one day, trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I found an ad that said, hey, you know, come study, get your real estate license at our brokerage, which was basically their way of just getting more agents in the door that could potentially, you know, produce transactions for them that they could skim a little bit off the commission. And that got me into the real estate industry. And kind of fast forward, I over the 5 years that I was in retail real estate, built up a real estate team. We were ranked by Wall Street Journal top 1,000 real estate teams in the country. I had up to 10 agents working on my team with me and my business partner. But in the meantime, as I was going through that grind, working 80, 90 hours a week, I got into real estate and wanted to, for the reasons of I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted the freedom and flexibility that went along with that. I wanted to be able to still work with people and make an impact and help people accomplish their goals. I wanted no ceiling on what I could accomplish financially and just physically in my business. But most importantly, I wanted to create wealth. So I didn't want to just own a job, which is what a lot of entrepreneurs end up doing, is they think just because they're working for themselves that they have all this freedom, but really you still own a job. And real estate kind of checked all those boxes, but it also allowed me to create true wealth. And so when I was building up my real estate team, I was actually starting to flip houses on the side. And I flipped over 150 houses in the last 5 years and started buying, rental properties. And so I was using those vertical income streams that I was having to show up for and work for every single day. But I started chipping away and throwing that into passive income streams or mailbox money opportunities, that residual income. And that started opening up so many new doors of opportunity and really led me down this wealth journey and this mindset journey of how to continue creating more abundance, not only in a monetary way, but in all areas of my life. How could I live like a millionaire in all areas of my life and not just, be grinding away, but then bankrupt in my health, bankrupt in my relationships, bankrupt in, how I give back to the community and serve others. And that led me to actually meeting a guy who introduced me to a mastermind group called Go Abundant. And that was a millionaire mastermind group who I've been a part of now for 4 years. And that has really led me into thinking and acting and executing in so many different ways than I ever thought or was trained to before. And that's what led me into my Millionaire Mindcast, which I realized that there were so many missing conversations for you, for me, for everybody that they don't have available to themselves. And so I wanted to start the podcast. And that was the whole reason why I started my own podcast, was I wanted to study other successful millionaires who not only were doing things, and living abundantly financially in their businesses and in their bank accounts, but also were great husbands and great wives and great community members and giving to charities and taking care of their health and traveling and living, this full lifestyle, this whole life millionaire lifestyle. And so that's what led me into doing what I do now. And, I've never been the smartest, never been the fastest, never been the strongest, but I've been really good at identifying the people who are and modeling after them and figuring out what works for them and applying it to my own journey.
Wow, that's really a powerful story you've got there. And a lot has really turned around for you in just the last 10 years, from what you were talking about in high school and college, not working out. And then here you are. You're a 7-figure real estate investor. You're a business mentor. Tell me a little bit more about what you do. Now, real estate was the vehicle that you chose, but you're using the things that you're learning about mindset and things you have put into practice to develop that millionaire mindset. How do you work with people to help them develop that in whatever vehicle they choose for their business?
Well, it's interesting. And what I've found through my studies and through a lot of the people that I work and coach with directly, as well as just a lot of the people that I study, is a lot of people have big goals and big dreams, and yet they execute on a very small level. And oftentimes the execution comes from a lack of clarity. And so that's really the number one thing that I focus on with a lot of people, is being crystal clear on what it is that you want to accomplish. Not the 100 things that you want to accomplish, but narrowing down the top priorities in your life and or your business that you are crystal clear on, that you want to move the needle forward in. And so that's really the first step, is getting crystal clear in what it is that you want to accomplish. And that takes a lot of time. And that takes a lot of planning and a lot of thought and a lot of really commitment to sitting down and doing the things that will move you into that clarity. And so oftentimes when I'm talking with people, I say, hey, just humor me for a second here. If I were to point a gun to your head right now and say that you could only chase 3 things this year, 3 goals that you want to accomplish, personal, professional, whatever it may be, what are those 3 things? And that forces people to really narrow down all the noise that's going on around them and pick the top priorities, those biggest dominoes in your life that would make the biggest impact in moving you towards achieving the goals in the life and the business that you want to have. And by going after those top priorities, of course, there's going to be 100 or 1,000 or, however many little tiny dominoes and tasks and activities behind those big dominoes. But when we go after the big domino, it knocks all of those other ones down in the process. And it eliminates a lot of the minutia and a lot of the noise and a lot of the, the distractions. And when we get clear on what those things are, it gives us the ability and it really empowers us to say yes to the right things and say no to the right things. So that way we are being intentional and purposeful, because oftentimes people run around with their heads cut off and they're so busy and I should be getting more results and I should be covering more ground, and they mistake movement for achievement. And yet, if they were extremely clear, or if they were to look at their calendar and see what they're doing, they'd realize that a lot of the things that they are doing aren't actually in alignment with their goals. A lot of the things they are saying yes to in their life aren't in alignment with the direction or, the milestones that they want to achieve. So that's really where I always start, is clarity. If people can get clarity in what it is that they're going after, things become a whole lot easier to not only go a whole lot faster, but you're going to go a whole lot further in probably half the amount of time. And productivity is a very, very direct correlation to you being clear on what it is that you're going after.
Wow, I really like that. And that takes me all the way back to Stephen Covey, which I quote all the time, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He uses an illustration there that you can be incredibly busy doing the wrong things. You can be very efficient at going in the wrong direction. So what you're saying is that we've got to get clarity. We have to know for sure where we're going, have that great big burning yes on the inside, and that makes it easy to say no to all the other opportunities and distractions that are coming after us and are bombarding us on a daily basis. So someone listening to this, and I recognize that, I connect with that mentally. Emotionally, I'm thinking, well, how does someone begin to get clarity? What do you have, like a 1 or 2 or 3 step little self-help process that can at least start getting them moving in the right direction towards developing clarity so they can execute on things that really matter?
Well, here's the thing. At the end of the day, I can't get inside someone's mind and tell them that the direction they're going is the right or the wrong direction, right? And either can you. It's an inside job. They're going to have to be the one to have that realization. And oftentimes, clarity doesn't come from thinking your way out of it. It comes from acting your way out of it. Through experiences when we actually get clarity. Oh man, I now know what I don't know, and therefore I'm going to course correct and pivot back over here. I know where I want to go, but maybe this activity, maybe this path, maybe this rabbit hole didn't actually make sense, and really I need to get back on track. So, oftentimes people try and plan or think their way into, getting clarity in what it is that they need to be doing or what they want to be doing. And yet oftentimes clarity is most likely a result of you just taking action, stepping into the batter's box, not sitting in the dugout, not being in the stands and trying to write out this, crazy comprehensive plan. It is gotten through you getting into the batter's box and taking a couple hacks and striking out a few times and maybe hitting a foul ball. But eventually over time, you're going to start picking up on the pitches and the cues, and you're going to start building the skills and the habits and the disciplines to get on base more. And over time, you're going to start scoring runs in your life, which will give you more clarity. So one of the frameworks that I do like to use, though, is a system called EOS. It's from a book by Gino Wickman called Traction. And that's one of the things where, yes, taking action is ultimately what's going to provide you with the most clarity, because you're going to have data points to say, this worked, this didn't, I like this, I don't like this. And over time, you're going to have enough to go, this is the path I should be on, and I'm going to double down. But in order to create more clarity from a planning perspective and how to execute is just the power of 3, right? So that's what I like to narrow down on 3 main things. And you can take your annual goals and you can chunk them down into quarterly action items or quarterly goals and use those in 90-day sprints. And I usually choose the top 3 for each quarter. And then what we'll do is we'll identify by going through this power of three exercise to say, okay, here's the top three goals. What are the top three things that could get in my way, that could prevent me from, hitting these goals, or that could be a hurdle or an obstacle? And so by getting clear on what those things are, then we can get into a proactive planning state versus a reactive planning state. And that gives us the ability to now identify what three things can I do to either eliminate this challenge before it comes up, or when it does come up, these are some of the activities or tasks that I can do to help alleviate that problem or to get around that problem a lot quicker. And so you can go through each goal and find the three challenges, and then for each challenge, the three tasks or solutions. And that way it gives you a roadmap to follow up front. And here's the thing, it might sound a little excessive to some people, and yet that's why you should be doing it, because most people don't do this. These are the things that the high achievers, the ultra successful individuals do as they are planning 7 steps ahead. They're swimming over and paddling to where the wave is going to break already, whether that's an opportunity in business, whether that's goal setting in their, specific space or industry or goal or whatever it may be. To plan ahead, it gives you the opportunity to be more intentional and take the necessary actions to get the momentum in some of those spaces that will give you more runway to have liftoff a lot sooner, and therefore get into action quicker to get some of the feedback that will ultimately, hopefully, give you a little bit more clarity through the experiences, but also through this planning process, you're going to get clarity and some of the action items that need to be taken.
That's really so incredible the way you put that and the way you answered that, because a lot of people will say, okay, I got to go find myself. I got to go, stare at my navel for 6 months and try to get clarity.
Right.
And what you're saying is just start doing. And once you get out on the field of battle, things will really become very clear. Either you're winning or you're losing, you're in the right place or the wrong place, but by doing what works and what doesn't work. And so you quickly get clear on where you are and what's happening. So this whole process of learning by doing, and it kind of reminds me of something that I heard someone say, that your destiny is not so much your decision, it's your discovery. And so how do you discover it? Well, you discover it by going out there and doing stuff, not by sitting, and meditating and trying to figure it out. I love that action-oriented process. You've got some other tools and some things I think our listeners would be interested in. Tell us something about the tools that you've got on your website.
Yeah, I got all kinds of freebies, and whether that's real estate investing checklists and tools and tutorials and all that kind of stuff at Aitchison.com. I also, over the last 5 years, have just become extremely obsessed with doing the extraordinary, because I've wanted to live an extraordinary life. So I knew that I was going to have to do the extraordinary things that average people, the majority of the world, just can't commit and have the disciplines and the habits to do on a consistent basis. And one of those things that I found was goal setting. Most people, think that, most people don't even write down goals, first off. Secondarily, most people don't write down goals and actually break them down and plan them out accordingly in the year. Then on top of that, to couple that with accountability and give somebody else permission to hold you accountable to doing those things, that's where, that's the 0.001% of individuals. So through my studies and over the last few years, I've really created a framework that I have found worked for me. And it's funny, it started in an Excel spreadsheet, and I was actually printing out a weekly planner and an agenda and kind of a routine and a habit checklist and all these things. And I was gluing them into, a Staples planner. And I was doing this week after week after week. And as I would go around, I would literally carry this thing with me everywhere. And people would go, dude, what is that? That's pretty intense, but that's awesome. Like, you should create one of these. And so after hearing that thousands and thousands and thousands of times, I created the Legendary Life Planner, which is literally that exact framework. And here's the way I break it down. And this is something that, I modeled after other individuals and mentors and people that I admired. And I kind of picked and pulled and took all these things and molded them together on what worked for me, and found out that over time, through the evolution of this process, it was an actually brilliant framework. And what I found is, just like your relationship with your wife or your husband or your spouse, if you made it an intention to say, you know what, I'm going to be a great husband, or I'm going to be a great wife, or I'm going to be a great boyfriend or girlfriend this year, but you didn't stay in relationship with that individual. You didn't talk to them on a daily basis. You didn't go on date nights. You didn't physically and emotionally connect to that person. You didn't stay in proximity to that relationship. It would look pretty crappy if all you did was check in 6 months through the year, or maybe at the end of the year, or shoot, you didn't check in at all. You just made the same intention to start the next year, right? How bad would that be? And so that's what I found most people do with their goals, is they set these intentions, if they set them at all, and they maybe check in, aimlessly once or twice a year. And then they wonder at the end of the year why they didn't get the results that they wanted to get. And so I say, from a goal setting perspective, is you have to stay in relationship to your goals. You have to stay in proximity with your goals. So I'm looking at my planner right now. I carry this thing around with me every single day. And not only does it have all the goals that I want to accomplish that month, that year, then I break it down into, where do I need to allocate these throughout the month? And then what do I want to get done this week? And what activities based on what I want to get done this week need to get done today? Right. And so it's just a very simple chunking process, eating, the elephant one bite at a time. But what it really is a tool for is an awareness tool. There's, I'm not sure if people are familiar with your RAS, RAS. It's your reticular activating system. And it's a piece in your brain that I know we can all relate to this, analogy is, if you've bought a car and the second you drive that car off the lot, all of a sudden you're driving home, you're like, holy cow, everybody's got the same car. Holy cow, that billboard has my exact same car. Wait a second, I didn't know that my neighbor Ted has the same car as me. Well, the thing is it's always been there. Those people have always been driving those cars. That billboard has probably been there for a while. Your neighbor Ted had probably had the car for a long time, but your reticular activating system is turned on to this particular thing. Well, then now that applies to any area of your life. And whether it's your goals, whether it's being a better father, a better daughter, a better, business owner, a better community member, if you set these intentions and you stay in relationship with them and you turn your reticular activating system onto these things, now you're going to be hyper aware of any time an opportunity, a relationship, a conversation, an activity, a resource, anything in alignment with that RAS, that goal. If it's in your peripheral, your awareness goes through the roof. And so what this framework does, this planner does, is it turns your reticular activating system onto the things that you have identified that you want to be intentional about, that you want to accomplish, that you want to achieve. And so really, yes, it's a planner, but it's a planner disguised. It's a habit tracker. It's an awareness tool disguised as a planner. And so anybody that wants that, I always give that free PDF away. All they got to do is text the word legendary to 44222, and it'll just ask for your email. It'll shoot you the PDF back, and you can be the crazy guy like me who prints it out and puts it into a weekly binder or a planner. But if you want a physical copy, there's availables for that as well, and you can always get more information there. But legendary to 44222. Check out the framework, see if it works for you. And here's the thing, mine's one of a million. There's all kinds of tools and resources and things available out there to people who are seeking more. And this comes back to, you can dream big, but you have to execute bigger. You have to put these things that you're learning into action. You have to implement your video or your audio, the things that you tell yourself and the other people in your life that you want to accomplish and achieve and have and, live. Your video, your actions have to really match what your video or what your audio is saying. So you got to dream big, but you got to execute even bigger.
Well, I really love the emphasis on action here. And sometimes I get feedback from people that say, well, I can't really plan every aspect of my life like this because as soon as I do, something goes wrong or whatever. And what I'm a little bit kind of a planner like what you're describing. I've got my planner. I'm walking around with it and people think I'm crazy. I've got my things broken down by year, by quarter, by month. So you and I are on the same page here, Matt, with no doubt. What you're saying is 100% correct. But what I tell people is even if your plan doesn't go 100% the way you planned it, you're going to be 80% more productive than you would have been by not planning. You're going to, if you're aiming towards it, even if you don't hit it right in the middle, you're going to get a whole lot closer to where you want to be than someone who just says, I'm not going to plan. I'm just going to go wherever the wind takes me. So to speak. Right.
Well, it's the same thing as if you think about, the mission to the moon. I think NASA released the study of, they created, you think they had a plan to get to the moon? Of course they did, right? They were intentional about how they were going to get there. But when NASA released the data, it showed that they were actually on course with the exact plan only 3% of the time. Did they still make it to the moon? They did. But that just shows you the ability of, at the end of the day, you can plan and life will slap you upside the head, right? And that's okay. I fall down every day in my thinking and my discipline and my habits. None of us are perfect. Human beings are flawed individuals, right? But it's about getting off course and being quick enough, being aware enough to pivot back and get back on course. And if we were on course, forever, life would be pretty boring. We would not develop skills and experiences and habits that will allow us to have those breakthroughs. The breakdowns allow you to have the breakthroughs. You just have to be super aware of when you're having those breakdowns so you can pivot back on track and course correct.
I love that. That's perfect. The breakdowns is what leads you to the breakthroughs. And if you never get out there and swing the bat, you're never going to hit anything. So that's right. That's awesome. And that's really motivating. Matt, what's the best way for our listeners to get in touch with you and find out more about what you have to offer?
Anybody can always reach me on my website, mattaitchison.com. I would say if you really want to engage with me and get get some immediate response, I am on Instagram and Facebook are my two main pages that I spend most of my time on. My Instagram is at Matt Aitchison Media, and my Facebook is facebook.com/Matty Aitchison.
Awesome. And in case someone is listening, it's AITCHISON is the spelling of Matt. Awesome. This has been a really, really exciting and motivating talk. And I appreciate your time today. I've been speaking with Matt Aitchison. He is a 7-figure real estate investor, business mentor, speaker. You can find out more about him at mattaitchison.com. Matt, it's been a real pleasure. Thanks so much for your time today.
Pleasure's been all mine.
You've been listening to Rebelpreneur Radio with Ralph Brogden. Download the show notes and much more at ralphbrogden.com.